Okay, so what I'm going to do is this is DMA 60. And for DMA 60, this is going to be our lecture on factoring using the calculator steps. This particular lecture of information that I'm going to share with you, this is for sections 9, 10, 11, and 12. So all 4 of these sections, it'll appear in MyLabs Plus. There's 4 different ways to factor. And yes, there are numerous ways you can factor. You may use this method that I'm going to show you for all of these sections. You do not need to learn and memorize the other ways. This is the way that your instructors in Math 171 will be doing the factoring using the calculator steps. So that's why we teach it using the same format. Okay, so I'm going to start by writing an equation up here. So I'm going to have 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. Okay? The first thing you want to do is check the order. Check order. And that means it needs to be in descending order. In descending order would be ax squared plus bx plus c. So you want to check your order of the polynomial and be sure it's in the right order. This one is. The next thing you're going to do is ask yourself, is there a common factor? If so, factor it out. So as I was saying, after we check our order, we ask ourselves, is there a greatest common factor? If so, we would factor it out. In this particular scenario, we have a 2, an 11, and a 12. All 3 of them do not have a GCF. So I can't do anything further with it, okay? So I'm good there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my calculator to where I have y1 equals. I'm going to multiply the values a times c. I'm going to multiply a times c and then put a divided by x. And then on y2, I'm going to type in a y1 plus x. This we're going to leave alone. So we can use this for every problem that we have. All we're going to change is going to be the first row for each of our problems. Okay? So how do you make the y1 appear? There's 2 ways you can do it. Let me come to the calculator and I'll show you. If I come to the second row, one way to do it is I can press vars, arrow to the right, enter 2 times, y1 appears, and then I can type plus x. That's one way. Another way to do that, and if I can remember it, let's see, alpha, yeah, if I do alpha and the trace button, do you see here for number 1? So alpha trace number 1 makes the y1 appear plus x. Okay, so that was alpha trace. So let me write that down because that's actually a shortcut. So a way to do that here is going to be alpha trace and then press 1. And then you still type plus x after it, okay? So ultimately what we want to do when we factor is we want to have 2 parentheses. And with the 2 parentheses, we are going to factor. So let me go ahead and put our 2 parentheses here and here. They're going to begin with the x at the front. If there is a value for a, so I'm going to put if there's an a, This is the step everybody forgets. So I like to go this at the beginning. So if there's an A, I'm going to put this here. In our case, we have a 2 for the A. So I'm going to write a divided by 2. And I'm doing that so we don't forget it. That's the common mistake is we forget. So once we've done that, let me change colors here. Okay, so we're going to multiply A times C, which is 2 times 12. So this is going to be 2 times 12 is 24, 24 divided by X. So Y1 in this example is 24 divided by X. Then I'm going to press second table, and I'm going to look in the third column for the B. The B is your middle number. B is the middle number. Our middle number here in this problem is 11. So let me show you that on the calculator here. I'm going to go to Y1. Whoop, yeah. 2 times 12 was 24 divided by X. If you wanted to be lazy about it, you could do a parenthesis. You could do 2 times 12. You could do 2 times 12 divided by X. So if you want to do the A times C here, you can, or you could do it on the calculator and put 24. Leave the second row, second table. Let your eye come to this third column. We're looking for positive 11. I see it here and I see it here. When you want to scroll, please keep the cursor in this first column. Notice I can move up. If I go to the third column and I start to try to move up, do you see it locks on me and it won't go any further? So let your eye go to the third column, but keep this scrolling cursor in the front. So what we have is a 3 and an 8. Here's an 8 and a 3. They're both positive. It doesn't matter which order, we're going to use an 8 and a 3. So what's going to go here is you're going to put the answer from column 1, and here you're going to put the answer from column 2. After you put those in, you would then, you would then simplify. So what we had was a plus 3, a plus 8. So you took column 1, column 2. Now, in this first one, we cannot reduce any further. That fraction doesn't reduce. So I'm going to move the 2 up in front of the x. So when I write my answer, it's going to be 2x3. For this one, I can reduce 8 divided by 2, and that's going to give me 4. And then this would be my factored answer. This is one of the more complicated ones because we have an A and a C. A lot of the problems you have aren't going to have both. It's just going to be simply just numerals. So let me give you another example. Let's do a couple of these. Okay, so if I give you, let's say, y minus 13, y squared minus 13y plus 30. If this is my equation, I'm going to factor it into 2 parentheses. There's not an understood value here. It's in the right order. There's no GCF. On y1, 1 times 30, we're going to do 30 divided by x. y2 stays the same. And when we do second table, we're going to look for a negative 13 in the third column. So let's come here, clear, 30 divided by x, second table. My middle number is a negative 13. I see a positive, but what I need to do is see negatives are here, I need to keep scrolling up. So I'm going to keep scrolling up until I see a negative 13. Okay, now I see a negative 13. So that means I've got to use a negative 10 and a negative 3. That's what I'm going to put in my 2 columns. So y minus 10 and a y minus 3. There's nothing to divide by, nothing to simplify by, because there were no other values there. Let's try another one like this. M squared minus 4m minus 21. We're going to factor the two terms. It's in the right order. There's no GCF. On y1, 1 times negative 21 gives me negative 21 divided by x. Y2 stays the same, and here we're going to look for 4. So let's come here. Y equals, only clear the first row. Now, when you type in the negative, don't hit this. Let me do this by accident just so you can see. If I do the minus sign and I go to my table, I get a syntax error. So if you get that message, what's happening is you are accidentally typing in, let me come back here. Okay. If you'll notice right there where I'm pointing, that's a minus. If I use the symbol down here beside the decimal, that's my negative. Do you see how that's smaller and higher up than the other? Second table, and it works. Okay, so always be sure if it's negative, you're using that sign. Our middle number is negative 4, so that means I'm going to use a positive 3 and a negative 7. So to get the middle number, we have to make sure the signs match, because negative 7 and 3 gives us the negative 4. So that would be m minus 7 and an m plus 3. And in this case, you're done. Your problem is completely factored. Okay? Let me give you another example. Okay, let's say we have this. Negative 6m plus 8 plus 2m squared. When you look at this, what's the first thing that you notice? The first question I always want you to ask is it in the right order? So the order is not correct. So we're going to put it in the correct order. 2m squared minus 6m plus 8. Now it's in the correct order. Then we ask ourselves, is there a GCF? Is there a greatest common factor? Yes. All of these are even. Hang on. I think I was writing too fast for it. So is there a GC? Yes. And the number we have for the GCF is a 2. So if I factor out a 2, I'm left with m squared minus 3m plus 4. And at this point, we now factor using the steps I had written on the previous page. So bring down the 2, draw your 2 parentheses. Now for this one, here there was an A, but we factored out the GCF. Now we're only factoring what is here. Let me change the color. We're only factoring what is here in this parenthesis. So now my A is an understood 1 and then a positive 4, okay? So what we have here on Y1, we're going to do, and we're going to look for a negative 3. So on Y equals, clear, 4 divided by X, second table, and we're looking for a negative 3. And in this case, I can't find a negative 3, can I? So at this point, we're going to stop. So let me write this in red. I'm going to put here, can't find the negative, so stop. The answer you're going to give is 2m squared minus 3m plus 4. This piece all by itself technically is prime. That can't be factored further, but if it's a problem that says factor, the mere fact we factored out the 2 means we still accomplished what they asked us to do. But if you do have a problem and you can't find the middle term, that means it's prime. Okay, I'm going to jump, that's sections 9, 10, and 11. I'm going to jump into section 12, and I'm going to give you a problem or two here. That's a little bit of a larger problem with bigger numbers, just so you can see how this is going to work. So let's do this one. 49 m squared minus 28mn plus 4n squared. If you have a squared at the front and a squared at the end, it's in the correct order. So that would be the correct order for this one. We're going to, and all three of these do not have a GCF, so there's no greatest common factor for all three numbers. We're going to factor them into two parentheses. They're both going to begin with an M, end with an N. On the bottom right-hand side, I'm going to put 49 because if there was an A, the number for A, we want to put it here. So on Y1, we're going to multiply 49 times 4 and then have the divided by X, and we're going to look a negative 28. Okay, so calculator, Y equals, hit clear. And instead of having to go two places, I'm just going to do it right here. 49 times 4, close your parenthesis, divided by X. Second table, and our middle number was a negative 28. Okay, I'm going to need to scroll up a little bit, and let's see if we can find it. I think we're getting there, maybe, almost. Yes, okay, so we have a negative 28. When you find the number, we're going to use a minus 14 and another minus 14. So here we have minus 14, minus 14. We still need to reduce. So I would use my calculator. Let's come back here, go to the calculator part, type in negative 14 divided by 49. You get a decimal, but all you have to do is press math and enter twice, and it will reduce it to a negative 2/7. So it'll do all of that math for you. So we have m minus 2/7 n, m minus 2/7 n. We only have one last step to go. It's reduced, but I need to do this bottoms up and move the denominator up in front. So that's going to be 7m minus 2n. But they're both the same. You could write it once and put squared, or you can write it 2 times. And the only other, let's see, I think that's actually, yeah, the only other thing that I didn't show, let me do one last example. In one of these sections, you will have something that may look like, hang on. No. No, I think actually I've hit all the examples of what we're going to be doing. Factoring by, oh, here we go. This is what I wanted to mention. Let's say we have the x squared minus 100, okay? So that is in the correct order, but I'm going to show you something that's missing, so when you use the calculator, you'll know what to look for. There's a missing term here that's not written. We don't have an x in the middle, but the way to have an x and it technically not be there is to have a 0. So here on Y1, you would use negative 100 divided by X. And then what you're going to look for on the calculator in the third row is going to be a 0. So we're going to factor it to 2 terms. They both start with X. A and C is a 1 and a negative 100. Our B is the 0. So Y equals, hit clear. Negative 100 divided by X. Second table, look in the third column for a 0, and you find a positive 10 and a negative 10. One's positive, one's negative. So we have a plus 10 and a minus 10, and on this one we're finished. We stop there. Okay? So all of the sections 9 through 12, you may factor using these calculator steps as you go about doing each of those.